Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for being here with me again. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about active listening skills in combination with negative capacity practice. Let's tease them out for a minute. I'm going to assume, for the sake of argument, that you're familiar with active listening. You've heard enough about it to have some semblance of an understanding of what it means. Essentially, it's the ability to hear what people are saying. As Covey said, with the intention to listen to understand versus the intention to listen to respond. Because if we're listening to respond, we're missing the point. If we're listening to understand, we're able to connect with people at a level where the essence of what they're saying is heard, understood, and responded to with symmetry. The next level of active listening is to be able to hear for the emotion of what's going on, what's being communicated. So you have empathetic listening, and then that next level of global listening, which is really a game changer. So let me move that to the side for a minute. Why am I talking about negative capacity practice? Well, from Stoicism, if you're familiar with this, you'll know that part of Stoic philosophy tenets suggest that in order to build up resiliency, tolerance, and muscle bandwidth, you should put yourself in situations that are often uncomfortable, the kind of situations that will often trigger you. So maybe that is talking with someone who has somewhat of a difficult personality, or finding yourself in a situation where the general majority mindset is very different than what you think about that particular topic. The reason why this is important is it's entirely understandable that we are our best selves when we're around people who are like-minded and civil and have a lot of shared values and beliefs. But we're also going to find ourselves in situations where that is not the norm, where people, for lack of a better expression, may come off as combative, or we may interpret them as being combative, and that will trigger us simply because they have a different opinion than us. And it may be that they were slightly more volatile in the way that they shared it, but doesn't necessarily warrant a combative response thereafter. Hence, negative capacity practice. If you find yourself understanding what triggers you, what are some of your pet peeves, you want to dive into that a little bit more. Put yourself in those situations, because what you want to do is you want to notice, okay, what is triggering me in this moment, and can I sustain being in those situations long enough to understand what's being said, because you don't want to run away from situations that trigger you. You want to meet them head on because you can't avoid them. And if you can't avoid them, at the very least, you want to be able to better function in those situations, to operate at a level that's more reflective of who you are as a person, as a leader, so that there's no diminishing return of how you present yourself in those situations. So if you notice that you're avoiding having a conversation with someone whose views are different than yours, take on the challenge, meet them halfway, because this is ultimately where you want to go. As you start to put yourself in these situations where they're tense, they're quite hot, likely to trigger you, what will happen is you will begin to become a bit more acclimatized to it. You'll become less sensitive to becoming triggered. And ultimately, what will happen is you start to see that other person's humanity. When we are triggered, or we wholeheartedly disagree with somebody, whether it's a value or if it's a belief reference point, we tend to other them. We tend to distance ourselves. We tend to dehumanize. When we're able to sit in the fire long enough and practice negative capacity, what happens is we start to connect with people at a human level, and we start to see the symmetry between how we are similar versus how we're different. When we're able to break that down, we're able to bring ourselves into those situations more fully. What that means is you're more likely to prevent conflict and build bridges between whatever's dividing you two, and better understand what actually is being said that prior to practicing negative capacity, you would have misunderstood. Now, this is not 100% of the time what happens, But in good faith, this is one way that you can take your listening skills to the next level, because this is the other thing. Why active listening and negative capacity work well together is you're gonna be more often or not in situations where the person in front of you, or the person to the side of you, or the person you're sharing a meeting with may not always be your kind of people. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're justified to avoid them or to keep them at arm's length. Because if you cannot connect with them, then you're also not able to hear them, which also means if you're an advocate of active listening for most parts of your life, in that moment, you're misaligned and you may come off as inauthentic. And that's the last thing you want, because your reputation has to withstand even the most difficult of challenges. So if your reputation is important to you, and active listening is something that you believe in as a leader, irrespective if you practice coaching skills and how you interact with your direct reports, if these things are important to you, then it behooves you to step into the arena where you're very likely to have challenges, and not just be combative, but to practice negative capacity, because that could be the thing that builds a bridge across the divide that separates you two. Because that bridge, without that bridge, the divide is going to lead to more moments of feeling triggered, more moments of volatility, more moments of stress, more moments of communication breakdown. If we can build a bridge using negative capacity, you're also more likely to understand and bring with you active listening. And when we're able to actively listen, we can bring compassion, we can bring empathy, we can bring a discipline for understanding what is being said in that moment, so that the response is aligned with what's needed in those situations. Now, love to hear from you in terms of how you put yourself in challenging moments to maintain the alignment of who you are throughout all situations. And if you practice negative capacity already, love to hear what are those situations where you're really taking yourself into the lines and challenging yourself, building up your tolerance, building up your resiliency. Until next time, folks, take care and be well. Bye.